All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of I'll Read What She's Reading. I'm Reggie.
I'm Michaela.
And I'm Kennedy.
And today we're going to be sharing books that have made us cry. Because there's nothing us book girlies love more than a good cry.
A good cry.
We were inspired by this episode because, well, we've been thinking of doing one for a while, but I don't know if it's just my pregnancy hormones, but every book I've been reading, I've been crying. And so I just asked on our Instagram stories the other day, the most recent book that made you cry. Maybe I should have said book that's made you cry the hardest. I didn't maybe word it the best, but before we start, I want to know what your most recent book that made you cry was.
Oh. Okay. Let me look at my Goodreads really quick. Okay, well, I have two that I could share.
Yeah.
One of them was Malibu Rising, but we've talked about that, so I'm going to go back a little bit farther. The other one that made me cry is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman.
I still haven't finished that.
It just is a really beautiful story. It's weird because the synopsis is basically you're following this group of people that are in a hostage situation, which I never really would have thought I would have cried, but it's just like this beautiful story of all these people in this hostage situation, their individual stories and how they all meet together at the end. And it's just the way this author wrote was just beautiful and just really tugs at your heartstrings. It was really good.
Oh yeah, I was sobbing within like the first 2 minutes of listening to the book. So
I feel like it talks a lot about, for some reason, I feel like it talked a lot about like parental relationships with their children at the beginning, and it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, I love that one. I mean, I haven't finished it, but I've loved that one.
There is a Netflix TV show. It's dubbed in English. So the original language is whatever the language the book was originally written in.
It's like Swedish.
Yeah. So far I don't like the show, but the book is really good.
Nice.
I don't know if I've talked about The Friend Zone. Did we?
I don't think you have on the podcast.
I don't know if you have.
Okay. I think this was the, if I'm remembering correctly, I can't remember if my most recent reads, if I teared up or anything like that, but The Friend Zone, I was crying uncontrollably. And I can't say exactly why because it spoils the book, but I just could relate to a scenario that happens in the book, and it just absolutely wrecked me. It wrecked me.
And you never see it coming.
No.
It's like, bam.
Is this a young adult romance?
No. It is a new adult romance. There is spice.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if there was or not.
Yeah, there is. I think. Yeah?
This is the football player and the ballerina, right?
No.
No. Oh, the fireman.
The fireman.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So, that was probably my most recent one.
Yeah, that's a good one to cry.
Yeah.
Mine was One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I got it available as an audiobook on Libby, and I was not too excited because it's not rated super highly, and you read it fairly what was it in this past year, right?
Yeah, it was this year.
And I don't remember if you loved it or not. Anyways, I literally sobbed that entire book. I don't know what it was. I do think Taylor Jenkins Reid is very good at just describing emotions and just... Sorry guys, my neighborhood is in a new construction area. It gets a little noisy.
That's a really...
What are they
Not
doing?
a jackhammer.
We're trying to get all emotional, and there's a jackhammer in the background. I wonder if you can even hear it. You might not be able to.
I'll just talk loud. Anyways, Taylor Jenkins Reid is just very good at storytelling, and it's so the book is about... This is one of her books that's not in the same time period and world as Malibu Rising, Daisy Jones and the Six, everything. So it's just a romance, and it's about this girl who gets married to her dream guy, and then a year after they get married, her husband is lost at he's lost. She gets a call that his helicopter has gone down and that he is presumed dead. And so she's like already engaged to this other guy. And so it's just kind of, I mean, I guess I can say because it happens within like the first part of the book. She gets a phone call that he's still alive, her husband. So she's like engaged, but she's still married. And she's just trying to basically decide between these two guys. And it was very emotional for me. And there were certain aspects of the book that reminded me of like my dating experiences that just for some reason really hit home with me. And I sobbed like a baby. And then I watched the movie, and the movie was dumb. So
I remember reading that book, and the way I read it on my Kindle, and the way she would describe love, there were so many highlights that I would highlight because she just described it so beautifully, and just the emotions that the character was feeling. Yeah.
What's really sad about the movie is that it would start to get really emotional, and then they'd like say some sort of like funny comment. It was like trying to be a comedy. And so I was really sad because I'd start to get like, like feel the feels again. And then it was just like something dorky they'd throw in. It kind of felt like a Hallmark movie, but yeah. So that's my most recent
I love it.
book that made me cry.
Okay, so another book that I forgot that was actually one of my most recent reads where I cried was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez.
I love her.
What has she written? Well,
I've only ever read, what's the one? Friend Zone is Abby Jimenez, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, The Friend Zone. Yeah, she honestly might be one of my favorite like romance authors. I cried. And it was like, I don't even know how to describe it. So pretty much the synopsis of this book is like a country boy and a city girl.
Hallmark movie.
Pretty much. Honestly, yes. Just with a little spice in it. And she's a doctor. And he doesn't know that. So he she won't tell him anything about her life. If that makes sense. And she like pretty much knows everything about his life because she's staying in the town. I can't even remember why she's there. I think she's not there for like, I don't even remember why. Anyways, there's just, the town is honestly what made me cry. The town, like the people in the town are just like the sweetest people, and they would just do like the sweetest things, and it just like made me sob. It wasn't anything to do with like the main characters. It was actually like the people, just like the side characters, that made me cry. And I was like, are you kidding me? It just
cute.
Made me want to be like in a really small town where just everyone's like family to each other, and they just do everything for each other, and it's just like not a big deal to like help your neighbor out, you know? And it's just like, it's not a big deal. So anyways, that's why I cried. It was a good book.
That's cute.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
Like the vibes.
It was a cute vibe.
vibes. You can come move where I live. You'll get the small town vibes. Okay. My book that I'm going to talk about, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast or not. Have I ever talked to you guys about Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren?
briefly.
I think you did briefly, just what you were reading.
Okay, so essentially, not me trying to remember the plot of this book. Basically, this boy and this girl are like childhood best friends, and then she comes back to her childhood home, and I believe you don't really know why, but you find out later on. What made me cry, it's a romance novel. What made me cry about this book, you guys are gonna be like, oh yeah, you cry about this in every book. It's the main character and her dad.
Oh.
And I just have to read this quote from this book because this is just a small clip of how her relationship is with her dad. This is what it says. But my dad learned how to put my hair in ponytails, what kind of shampoo to buy, and he even had someone teach him how to braid and use the curling iron for special occasions. He could have done what was easiest for him and just cut it all off, but he didn't.
Oh, that's cute.
Really
literally
sweet.
Their relationship was just
that's tender,
so cute. And then things happen in the book, and then you don't see it coming, and all of a sudden it's
crying
just
right now.
tears, just like uncontrollable tears. Yeah. We love a good dad in a book.
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
Mhm.
Are you okay, Reggie?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've just been talking to Kendall a lot, my husband, about how he's going to be a girl dad because I'm going to have another girl. And he's just like, so we've just been talking about that a lot.
Mhm.
It's just like, I don't know. That's so cute.
There's
I wanna read that.
something. Yeah, there's something
Sweet.
about a girl dad that just
Yeah,
hits you to your core.
I know. My dad will never admit it, but he's the biggest simp for me.
Same.
Because I'm
Can't
the only
relate.
girl. I'm the only girl, and so, he's just like the sweetest. He will adopt you,
Thanks.
Kennedy.
That'd be
Same.
great.
Yeah.
That'd be great, guys. That'd be great.
All right, Reggie.
Okay, so this is a book I read. This is not a recent one. I read this book forever ago. And when I think back about if I like this book, I really didn't like it all that much. But I remember, I don't know if I was just having a hard day. I remember sobbing on my bed in my room. I was still living with my parents. I was in college. Like sobbing on my bed. I remember like my brother coming in and being like, "Are you okay? Like, not, are you okay? What happened?" He thought that like Kendall broke up with me. He was like, "What is wrong?" And I was like, "I'm just reading a book." The book is All the Bright Places
I knew you were gonna say that.
and I might have talked about it before. I don't remember a whole ton about it, but it was not my favorite. It's by Jennifer Niven.
I think it's Neve. I don't know.
I don't know.
There was something about that book. It was just so painful and sad. It just ripped my heart out and crushed it into a million pieces. And I don't know what I was going through in that moment, but I was a sad girl and I cried it's like someone had died. So
I read this book and I didn't cry.
I think when it comes to books that make you cry, a lot of it depends on where you're at in your life when you read it.
Yes. 100%.
Because had I read this same book within this past year, I probably would have been like, okay.
It was cute. Like, I enjoyed it. And I got a little teary-eyed, but I didn't ever cry.
I would never cry as hard as I did when I read it. Yeah.
Sorry. I feel like those like sad books in high school just like broke everyone. Like The Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah.
5 Feet Apart. I can't remember any of the other ones. Paper Towns and stuff like that.
Can I tell you guys something really embarrassing?
What?
Yeah.
No.
I cannot believe I'm going to share this on a freaking podcast. Okay, so when The Fault in Our Stars was really big.
Yes. I feel like I know where
Oh,
you're going with-
Oh, no. This is so embarrassing.
I know this. You told us
Me
this
and
one.
Kyle literally wrote, like, eulogies. Like, if we were speaking at each other's funeral. And read them to each other.
No.
I remember sitting in my mom's basement, like, reading this eulogy that I had wrote for Kyle. Oh.
That's really funny. I
wonder
thought you
if
were
I
about
could
to
find
say you should. I thought you were about to say that you and Kyle like started saying okay to each other. Okay.
But I did make an Instagram
Okay.
post one time basically being like, I'm living my own Fault in My Stars because my my boyfriend has diabetes. That wasn't exactly what I wrote, but it was like to that, like,
No.
oh.
Why are we so cringe in high school?
There's nothing worse than going back through your Instagram
No.
captions.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-mm.
I remember Kendall taking me to that movie like 3 different times. And I was like, he picked me up and he was so excited. I'm like, where are we going? He's like, we're going to go get burgers and then we're going to go see The Fault in Our Stars. I'm like, we've literally seen it twice in theaters
Oh,
already.
Kendall was a fan of it?
I was like, okay. And then I would cry every time.
Oh, and The Selection. I read that in high school. That made
that make
me
you cry?
cry
Yeah.
in high school. But looking back, when I've read it, I said this last time, but in my adult life, I don't cry anymore. But, I feel like in high school, just all of the hormones, lots of stimulation, school, friends, it just all hits a little
Life is
different.
hard
Life
when
is
you're a
hard.
teenager.
Everything's the end of the world.
Yeah,
Everything's
so-
more dramatic.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like everything was just always like, my heart's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you're right. In high school, it was like Fault in Our Star. Like, John Green That's his name, right?
Yeah.
John Green
Mhm.
books, like Nicholas Sparks.
I've never read a Nicholas Sparks book.
Me either.
Really? I've probably read a handful of them. I remember reading The Last Song. That one really made me cry because I remember reading it before the movie came out.
The Last Song.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a hard time if I've already seen it. My image is just tainted
Yeah.
by the actors, actresses like Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth.
Mhm.
I get the Hemsworth brothers mixed up, but it also just sucks watching that and you're like, ooh.
That's where they fell in love, and now
yeah. Ooh. Anyways,
you're up.
oh, it's me. I feel we've already had a whole podcast episode about this, but I think about it on the daily. Fourth Wing.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like I cried that one. Those are my most recent cries. I've read a lot of books in between those 3 books, but Fourth Wing, I cried a lot.
Me too.
So
I did too.
Okay, I know I've already talked about this on the podcast, but don't worry. We have so many responses from our followers that of books that some books I've never even heard of, or most of the books we're sharing are books we've never talked about on this podcast. So we're gonna have lots of good recommendations for you in a second. But this book, I've never cried so hard in my entire life in this book, like snot down my face, just blowing my nose literally every 5 minutes. It's a dog book. It's A Dog's Purpose.
Oh, yes.
And it's not anything new. I mean, it's been made into a movie. You guys probably already know the synopsis. You know, it's like a dog getting reincarnated as other dogs throughout the entire book. And I'm sorry, but dog books just hit different when you have an elderly dog that, you know, could... I'm not going to actually say it because I'm not going to put it out there, but I've never cried so hard in a book in my entire life. Dare I say, even book, movie, anything. That book just really ripped my heart out, stomped on it, and put it in acid, and it will never be the same.
Oh, I remember you Marco Poloing us, and you were like, that was accurate description.
It was.
Yeah, it was not okay.
So.
It was not okay. And then I had to shoot right after, so
Oh.
that was fun.
I just don't think I need to read any. I just shouldn't read any more dog books. The only one I've ever read was Our Voice in the Rain. And I sobbed during that one too. So I just think I'm just going to skip out on the dog books from here on out, because anytime a dog is mentioned in a book, even if it's not even about the dog, I'm like, so I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop.
Yeah, you would.
Don't recommend dog books to me, please.
Yeah, you would be hysterical if you read that book. It was way worse than The Art of Racing in the Rain. So.
Oh, no. Okay.
My turn?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I can say one that's more recent. And we're going to do a whole episode on this book in next week's episode. But I cried so hard during Ashes in the Star-Cursed King.
I know.
Like, I can't really say anything about it, but if you have read A Court of Mist and Fury, okay, there's a certain spot in that book that just gets you in the feels. I felt the exact same as I did reading A Court of Mist and... Not the exact same. I like ACOTAR a lot more than I like Serpent in the Wings of Night, but it just brought a similar feeling in this other book, and I don't feel like that's a spoiler, is it? Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Sobbing.
So.
We can talk about it next week, but that book had me sobbing. I also remember like sobbing the entire time I read Happy Place. That book made me sob. But another book I was thinking of that when I think of, I would have never thought this book would make me cry. Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh yeah, I sobbed.
The end of that book, just, I was like, oh, I'm going to start sobbing now. Okay, cool. I was not expecting that. But there's like so many good quotes in this book. Like one of them, like the way there's just something about the way Taylor Jenkins Reid describes feelings and explains like love and heartbreak, that like one of her quotes was like, this is just about love. And I don't know why this wrecked me in a million pieces, but She says, I wish someone had told me that love isn't torture, because I thought love was this thing that was supposed to tear you in two and leave you heartbroken and make your heart race in the worst way. I thought love was bombs and tears and blood. I did not know that it was supposed to make you lighter, not heavier. I didn't know it was supposed to take only the kind of work that makes you softer. I thought love was war. I didn't know it was supposed to. I didn't know it was supposed to be peace. I don't know. There's a lot of quotes in that book I could share. But, like, they were just like, she'd throw in these little things in there, and I was like, oh, and then it was the end, and I was just like, a mess. And then I watched the TV show, and I sobbed again. So
I think books that make you cry are just, like, super subjective to, like.
For sure.
Because I know there are books that I didn't cry on, which is fine. It just didn't hit as hard as, like, some other books that you guys have read that you've cried at. And I've cried at books that you guys are like, why the frick are you crying? So it's just completely subjective. And so I'm liking to hear what you guys have cried on, and, like, it's fun, but also like sad.
It's all about your life experiences. Like, for example, with the one you shared, the friend zone, is everyone going to react the same way you did?
No.
Maybe not as much as you did, but I still cried.
Yeah.
Or if someone read A Dog's Purpose or The Art of Racing in the Rain, they might be like, excuse me, this is so stupid. It's a dog book. But, you know, everybody's a little bit different, and everybody's life experiences are so different. I've said this a million times. Daddy issues here. Anything that has to do with a dad and a daughter, I'm going to cry 100% of the time. Other people might not, because they don't have those experiences. So it's about the time of your life experiences, the time you read a book. There's so many different variables.
Yeah.
Well,
that make someone
even
cry.
like the littlest things can just make you emotional. Like in One True Loves, there was like this part, I don't remember specifically, but they're on a date, and it was like the tiniest little detail of something that happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, that reminds me when this and this and this happened. And then I was just like crying, because then it took me back to a certain moment, and literally just like 4 words that she used. So,
but I will tell you
crying.
what, every author, I have mad respect for any book, any author that can make you cry over something that's not real. The fact that there's books out there that make you have a straight up visceral reaction and sob and make you feel something, everybody should get an award for that, because that's no easy feat.
Oh yeah.
So to any author that's made me cry, thank you.
Props
Yeah,
to
thank
you.
Props to you.
So, should we get into some books that have made you guys cry? Because you know how sometimes you just crave watching a movie that makes you cry? Sometimes you just need a book that makes you cry. You need a good cry.
Okay. If there's one fan of Rebecca Yarros, that is me. It's us. I've only read one of her books, so I really can't say much, but I've heard a lot of good things about The Last Letter.
Me too.
By Rebecca Yarros. And the book description, I can already tell that would just like wreck me. I'll read just a little bit. Beckett, if you're reading this, well, you know the last letter drill. You made it. I didn't. Get off the guilt train, because I know if there was any chance you could have saved me, you would have.
Oh, my heart.
Okay, Rebecca just knows.
That was literally just 2 sentences of the book description, and I feel like I'm already getting teary-eyed. So, yeah, if that didn't convince you to read The Last Letter, there's your sign. It just sounds really good, and I think it's another army one.
That wouldn't surprise me. I think she likes to write
Well, because
military
her
romance.
husband's in the military,
Yeah,
right?
he was.
So,
I don't think he's anymore.
Yeah. I feel like military romances are just like, ugh, rip my heart out.
Mhm.
That sounds like a book that would destroy me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, another one you guys said, and I don't know if you guys have been getting TikToks about this book, but I have. It's called Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. If you see the
I've seen the cover.
I was gonna say, if you see the
Okay,
cover,
okay.
you'll know what I'm talking about. Heather, if you guys know Heather, We fondly call her Heath, even though that's not her name.
Love you.
She read this book. She rated it 6 out of 5 stars.
Ooh.
Said, "Holy crap, this is now one of my favorite books. This was beautiful. This was a masterpiece. Win and Bo are hard eyes."
Win.
Basically, the description of this book is that Win and Bo meet, have a one-night stand, and it says that one night changes everything.
Oh.
Now, I know of a certain trope that happens in this book that I'm not a fan of, per se, but I can see why this would make the book very emotional. I'm not going to say what the trope is. If you really want to know, you can go Google it because it'll come up.
Or if you know Kennedy well enough, you know the few tropes
It's not miscommunication.
I know it's not that one.
Do you know what it is?
I think I do.
Yeah, it just has certain things that I don't know if I'm a huge fan of.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's raving about it. So, Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young.
All right.
Okay. I'm adding things to my
Oh yeah.
good
'Cause
reads.
it's gonna be a sad girl winter. We've already
We're going to be crying.
We're just be crying all day. Okay, I picked this one because I remember I saw the title that someone said of this book, and I remembered the cover of this book being like a shirtless guy with like this graffiti looking font on the front, and I was like, okay, is this just like some spicy book that's like, I'm just curious. So this is the cover, okay? Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. Okay, it's a.
Oh, yeah,
it
that
looks
cover.
like a sports romance.
Oh,
I'm getting the
sports
vibe.
romance.
Yeah. Guy on front he's looking good. It just looks kind of cheesy. You know
looks
what
a
I'm
little bit,
saying?
yeah.
Goodreads says it's 681 pages.
Holy Hannah.
But it has very high ratings. So basically, it's a college romance. I think it's also a sports romance. It says, for years I've dreamt of what college life could bring, and while some things changed, there was always one constant. It didn't matter how wild I allowed my imagination to run, it always led me to the same place in the end. It led me to him. And then it says, my future was clear and he was it until suddenly he wasn't. Now I'm a shell of who I was on a path too blurry to follow, and I see no way out or no way up. They say first loves last forever. That's exactly what I'm afraid of.
Oh.
That's the like, so it's like written in like the first person. Anyways, there was a review I was looking at, and they gave it infinity stars out of 10. It says, no words could do this book justice. The only thing wrong with it is that it had the audacity to end. I'm an empty mess now that it's done. Don't call or text. I'm in denial. Did I really finish it if I pretended I didn't? So she's just saying like,
Yeah.
Oh.
so there's a lot of like really good like high ratings on this, and so I was just very surprised by this book being one that would make someone cry just based off of the cover that I've seen of this book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for a long book that's gonna probably rip your heart into a million pieces, may I suggest, not that I've read it, Say You Swear by Megan Brandy.
Say You Swear.
I'm adding that.
Like, I'm just going through the reviews and people are like, I'm flabbergasted.
Okay, I can't lie though. Like, the cover genuinely spooked me because I've seen the cover before and
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't really look like something I want to read.
Is it just a one-off? There's no...
Yeah.
I think
it's a one-off.
Someone says
Beautiful.
in their review, my heart got shot into smithereens more times than once.
Huh.
But our good friend Heather,
She did not like it.
she did not like it.
But that's okay.
That's okay. Maybe it was just the time in her life she was not loving it.
See, and now I'm like curious because I'm like, I want to read it, but then I also don't at the same time. So I'm like, do I just spoil the book for myself and go,
Maybe that's one you listen to.
yeah, maybe. If it's 681 pages, if that's correct.
Okay. I can't really talk about much. I haven't read this. I know what this book is. I know a character in this book. I'm actually terrified to read it. I don't know why. It's A Ballad of Never After. Is that the first book or is it the
Yeah.
The
And then the
second?
other one's a ballad of a broken, something of a broken heart.
A Broken Heart.
Yeah.
And then the third book is coming out soon. I don't know when it's coming out.
I'm trying to speed through Carval so we can read those
I
two
know.
before it comes out.
I know. I'm so nervous to read that just because so many people I know like just pretty much say that their heart gets broken in half, and I'm just like not ready because I could just see it being that way. I could just see. I've also seen people that have read that before Carval, and I'm like, no.
See, if you wouldn't have told me to read Carval first, I would have just read the book.
Yeah.
And I would have had no idea that I missed out.
Yeah, it's like it keeps saying it's available for me to listen to on the Libby app.
Really?
Yeah.
The first one?
Yeah, I swear.
Oh.
Yeah, I had it on there. I think I just randomly added it one day just for my want to read on Goodreads.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep pushing it back.
Okay.
I cannot wait.
If you guys are interested in reading it, I really highly suggest reading the Carval series before you read this. And it's just like important. It's almost like the SJM universe.
I get you.
You know, like just like important things happen that like you'll get a better insight for the Ballad of Never After. And I mean, I know nothing about this book pretty much. I've tried to avoid spoilers at all costs. So I'm just like so scared. I'm so scared.
I can't wait to read it. I really can't. Okay, this next one. Oh, I've seen so many TikToks about it, and I've just seen so many people just say that they're so glad this book is over so they never have to read it again because it's so emotionally devastating. The book is A Little Life by Hanya, I'm going to butcher the last name, I'm sorry, Yanagihara. I had intentions of reading this book, but the more and more I heard about it, the more I was just like, I don't know if I can read a book where people like you literally just go into it knowing you're going to be absolutely emotionally just wrecked. And so don't come for me for this. I read the summary and I know exactly what happens in the book.
Yeah, we were talking about it on a drive to one of
Yeah,
our
Reggie
weddings
encouraged me. She's like, just read the summary, because I was really intrigued, but it's a very, very long book and I know it's just really takes an emotional toll on you. Essentially what this book is about is it follows 4 friends. They live in New York. I believe they're in college, and it just kind of goes through all the hardships they go throughout this time period in their life. And some of the stuff is really, really sad. And I would look up trigger warnings for this book because I think there's a lot of trigger warnings. But if you want a book that'll make you really cry, A Little Life will do that to you from what I've heard. So
I'm like super intrigued, but I don't know if I would like it.
It's pretty. I don't think you would. It's a really thick book. Like I'm gonna actually see how many pages there are, but I've just seen so many people being like, I'm finally done with this book. I don't have to read it. It's 720 pages.
Oh my word.
But it has a really, really high rating on Goodreads. It has 80,000 ratings and it's 4.34 stars.
It sounds like the kind of book that's gained a lot of popularity that I wouldn't be surprised if they did like a movie adaptation of it.
I agree. Every single person, just kidding. Well, actually, I'm going to read, for those of you who follow Kinsey Diedrichson, I'm going to read her review. She goes, I would never recommend this book. In fact, I would recommend you skip this one. I'm willing to admit that I read it partially out of FOMO, and that isn't good enough reason to read it. She went on to say that there were parts she liked about it, but she can't say that she enjoyed it because I think it's like has a lot of heavy topics in it. But if you want to cry, I think that book would be a universal experience for everybody to cry in, no matter who you are. So
I have literally no idea what it's about. Like I have no clue.
Just look up the trigger warnings, then you might change your mind. Yeah.
This is a book that has so many ratings. I said in our last episode, our fall TBR, that I wanted to read this fall. I didn't know it was like super, super sad until everyone was saying that it made them cry. It's like a historical fiction. So it's set like during the Holocaust, I believe. Yes. When a German captain requisitions her home, she and her daughter must live with the enemy or lose everything. Without food or money or hope, as danger escalates all around them, she's forced to make one impossible choice after another to keep her family alive. That sounds a little intense to me.
It does.
Sounds like an emotional roller coaster,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna put myself on that ride and let you know how it goes. So, historical fiction books, I haven't read a ton, but when I think about the ones I have read, every single one of them has made me cry. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like what books did you guys have to read in high school? Did you guys have to read like Prisoner?
I don't remember reading any books in high school.
This isn't a historical fiction, but some people submitted this in the box. I know one book we had to read in high school was Tuesdays with Maury.
Okay, yes. My mom loves that book.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesdays with Maury's a good one. And it's
Yeah.
so short.
Mhm.
It's literally like...
If
I
you
don't even
need
know how
like
thick it
a
is.
quick read that makes you cry,
It's feel
makes you
good.
feel good.
Yeah.
Tuesdays with Maury is a good one. What ones did you read?
I have not heard of that.
You haven't
Tuesdays with Maury?
Oh, you would like it.
I think you would.
It's like a. It's
Let
not
me
a
find the synopsis.
biography, It's a.
So here's the synopsis. It's... Okay, so... Maybe it was a grandparent or a teacher or a colleague, someone older, patient and wise who understood you when you were young and searching and gave you sound advice to help you make your way through it. For Mitch Album, that person was Maury Schwartz, his college professor from nearly 20 years ago. And then basically he just goes and he visits Maury every Tuesday. And Maury has ALS. And so it's just kind of like their meetings and what they talk about. And it's really cute.
I would honestly love to read that book again, but it might. See, I would probably cry harder reading that now because, like, my grandma passed away from ALS.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when I found out my grandma was diagnosed with that, I remembered that book, and then I was like, so. But it's a very feel-good. You would like it.
Oh, okay.
And it's really short. It's... Let me see how many pages it is.
It can't be, like, more than
It's 210 pages.
Yeah.
I have it if you ever want to borrow it.
Okay. I read a Prisoner B 3087. It's about a Holocaust. Anything to do with like the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to read those because it just like wrecks you emotionally. And I also like ran in Frake's diary. Did you guys ever read her diary? And a book that I read, it's really, really hard to read because he's a philosophical like man, is a life's true meaning. The true meaning of life. Oh, okay, I found it. So it's A Man's Search for Meaning, by Viktor E. Frankl. He is one of the survivors of the Holocaust. I think he's since passed away, but he wrote this book, and it was just, they're just like very like, I don't even know how to describe it, but they're very eye-opening, just make you feel a little bit more grateful about your life. And I think those are some extra suggestions for you if you're feeling like you want to even learn things about our history. Not our history. If you want to learn things about like the history and what happened in different countries and stuff like that, and just get an inside look into what their life was like during those really hard times. Yeah. I think
it's one thing to read a book about something fictional, but it's another thing to read something about something that actually happened.
Yeah.
Like, it just puts into perspective for you how sad things can be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like what Michaela said, it just definitely makes you feel way more grateful for your life. And yeah, it puts things into perspective for sure.
If you want to get wrecked, those are the books to read. Sorry, we just ended it on a more depressing note, but yeah, I liked these, and you guys gave us a lot of suggestions that I'm definitely gonna be adding all of them to my TBR if I don't have enough books on there already. Yeah,
we should start posting. Someone replied to our story of the one where I was crying, and I asked like the question box for this. Someone was saying we need more like book vlog or something of you guys reading books when you're crying. I don't know, something like that. So,
you guys, I mean, you want what we should do when this goes live? Go to our Instagram stories. We'll post some of the crying selfies we've sent to each other in the past. They're pretty good.
They're pretty good. I was
good.
gonna say we should We should
I'll
post them.
find the Marco Polo of me sobbing in the car reading A Dog's Purpose, and I'll post it for you guys.
Yes. And we would also, yeah, feel free to tag us in if you're ever reading a book that makes you cry and you want to share about it. Tag us. We'll repost it.
We love a good crying
Share
selfie.
your sadness with the world. Just kidding.
That's the only time I ever take pictures of me crying. So
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate your listens, your follows, your reviews, all the things. Oh, and one thing I just wanted to say really fast, because I couldn't respond to everyone's comments, but the video I posted of me telling Kennedy and Michaela that I was pregnant, the comments were so nice. They made me cry. They were so sweet. And I'm sorry I couldn't respond to like all of them, but I just wanted to say on the podcast, thank you if you commented, because that was so sweet. So thank you so much. Yeah, we love you, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.